When I taught high school theology at a Catholic high school, there was an adage I learned that may be familiar to most educators. It went like this: students may not remember what you taught, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Truth be told, if I look back on my own education, I don't remember every single lesson I was specifically taught. I certainly learned a great deal, but I think like most of us, the information we learn compounds over the years. While we recall information, principles, or skill sets, we may not recall the specific day we learn it on. However, I can remember specific teachers, and I'm willing to bet so can you. I can remember how they taught, how I felt in their class, what my relationship with them was. And I remember the sheer fact that I even had a relationship with them at all. See, without that first step of building a relationship of rapport with the individuals we serve, it's going to be hard to make progress in what we're trying to do. Because with rapport comes something much more vital to evangelization: trust. If we look at Sherry Weddell's famous work, Forming Intentional Disciples, she discusses the thresholds of conversion, the phases or steps people tend to take on the way to making a commitment to Jesus and putting Jesus at the center of their lives. What's the first step? Building initial trust. Without trust, conversion's not possible. If we look at our daily lives, we know this is true. If we need something done in our home, we need a plumber, electrician, or contractor, where do we turn? Well, if we know someone that did work on their home, we'd probably ask, who do you use? Why? Because we trust them. If we trust them, we're probably willing to at least give some trust to the people they chose. Likewise, you know what the number one way real estate agents find clients? It's word of mouth. There are just some things that are so important, like buying a house, that we know we need a trusting relationship with the person who's going to help us in order for it to work. And if we're looking for trusting individuals with things like buying a house or home improvements, then how much more important isn't it to find trusting individuals with fostering conversion and a relationship with God? So if we want to grow our ministry and formation work and better serve our people, we need to make sure that we're building rapport and trusting them, that we're prioritizing building rapport with them. Because trust leads to being vulnerable. And being vulnerable is a matter of the heart, and that's what conversion discipleship is. Without trust, there's no vulnerability. Without vulnerability, there's no conversion. So how do we build trust? Well, a good starting point is to ask ourselves, well, who do we trust? What about them makes us trust them? Why are we friends with them? In his book, One Discipleship at a Time, author Everett Fritz shares these 3 tips for building one-on-one relationships. Number 1, utilize personal invitations. Because it's personal, a one-on-one invitation becomes the seed to start and develop a relationship. 2, take time to consider and note the most comfortable environment that you can meet this person in once you invite them. And 3, get to know them. He notes that while he has a lot of in-depth conversations regarding faith with his extended family members, he usually doesn't start those conversations. Rather, his family knows he's approachable because he's invested time in relationships with them. And so as a result, some of them have reached out to him with their own questions. Okay, but what if you minister in a larger setting? Let's say a classroom of kids or teens. What should you do if you can't meet everyone one-on-one in an environment like that? How can you build rapport? Perhaps, especially if there's some behavior issues. Well, I invite you to learn from St. John Bosco. He was called Don Bosco and was a Catholic priest, now saint, who ministered in Turin, Italy in the 19th century to disadvantaged young people. His methodology focused on first winning relationships with young people and teaching them from the place of having an established rapport with them. This became the basis of what he called the Preventative system, which is still utilized by the religious congregation he founded, the Salesians of Don Bosco, who have a specific charism to ministering to young people. Don Bosco explained that the preventative system contrasted the repressive method. In the repressive method, he said, educators typically set rules for students, watch for infractions of the rules, and then punish students for infractions as they occur. But he found that this methodology negatively affected the student-educator relationship, as it led with the understanding that the educator was merely a supervisor for infractions. Bosco found that while the repressive method could stop disorderly conduct, it was not effective in improving behavior and interior disposition over time. Rather, he communicated that any rules and expectations could only be effectively applied and maintained if they came first from an existing empathetic relationship where the educator had rapport with the students. So he based his preventative system on 3 pillars: reason, religion, and loving kindness, which he took from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 to 7. He taught the educators should first be dedicated to their pupils and spend time with them. The educators should practice what they preach in order for students to trust in what they're telling them. Educators should give students ample time to, quote, jump, run, and make a din as they please. That great friend of youth, St. Philip Neri, used to say, do whatever you wish, for me it is enough, you do not sin. In short, make time for good, clean fun. Make time for yourself for frequent confession, communion, and daily mass to keep oneself well fed and formed in a relationship with Christ. It's from this relationship and faith that the teacher witnesses to their students and teaches them. Moreover, St. Bosco insisted on the importance of creating the right environment where family spirit is fostered between educators and students. And when it came to reprimanding, Bosco taught that educators should start from the position that students are reasonable. We should err on the side of loving kindness when reprimanding, not being harsh, but instead looking to speak with them at the right moment and doing so from a perspective of mentoring them rather than being punitive. The students, he found, in turn, would be more apt to listen and believe the teacher because they first trusted them and saw them as a mentor rather than as a supervisor just looking to catch bad behavior. While he may not have realized it, Bosco knew then what sociologists knew now. For instance, the Springtide Research Institute in their 2020 study found that when young people have 5 or more trusted adults in their lives, their rates of anxiety, loneliness, and feeling misunderstood drop significantly. Remember, kids tend to act out where they feel safest. Sometimes the most unruly student is actually the one that has the most going on behind the scenes. And even if they don't have extra stuff going on or just badly behaved, they still need a mentor and a trusted adult, not another supervisor. They need a good role model and someone who will invest in them. That's exactly what Don Bosco did. One year I had this student, the student that every teacher talks about. And instead of dismissing his questions, I tried to get to know him. Yes, I had to reprimand him. When I did it one-on-one. One day when we were going to adoration, this self-proclaimed atheist, I asked if he would be willing to do the reading. And he said yes. I believe he only said yes because I had built a rapport with him first, was willing to build a relationship with him, and then he was able, because I bought into him, he bought into me. Regardless of whether or not you minister to young people, the marks of Don Bosco's preventative method still very much apply in every ministry setting. When we spend time with the people we serve, when they can trust us to be of good moral reputation, and when we give ample time for good, clean fun, we organically build relationships with the people we serve. Yes, this does take time, and yes, this means that at the outset of what we do, we need to dedicate more time to building relationships than to other things. But as Sherry Weddell reminds us, the first step to conversion is building initial trust. Without that, we won't be able to do much else. So consider, who's someone you minister to right now that you could build a better relationship with? And if you're struggling to do that, ask for the intercession of St. John Bosco to help.